So here in Southern Ohio, we are right on the cusp of fall. We still have some hot days, but we're starting to get those really cool mornings and evenings, and I am so excited. This is my favorite season. I always think about my favorite movie, You've Got Mail, and Joe Fox writes a letter to Kathleen Kelly where he says, "Don't you love New York in the fall? It makes me want to buy school supplies." And I feel exactly the same way, except I'm not going to because I don't want to clutter my house. But instead, today we're going to talk about my favorite transitional activity or task in my home, which is to transition our summer wardrobe capsules into our fall capsules. And I'm going to bring you all along in that process so that you can see the tools that I use in order to maintain a minimalist capsule wardrobe for everyone in the family. Except Steve. Steve is not on board with this activity. All right, let's get started. So when I started my decluttering process, I used two different approaches with my closet. I used to be determined bins and the onion method. Now the onion method, what I love about it is that it's very gentle and slow. And I think that when it comes to clothing in the closet, it is a very personal area. It's very sensitive for people, and it's hard to find any particular decluttering approach or capsule wardrobing approach that's going to work for every single person out there. So with the onion method, you basically just go in, take out a few items of clothing, test living without those, and this process allows you to build some more faith in yourself and in your decision-making ability. Slowly over time, I would just take a few items of clothing out. I would either declutter them or I would put them into my other tool, which was the to be determined bins. And at this stage in my life, it was 2020. I had just become a mother and I had just transitioned from working in an office 5 days a week to being at home and working remotely. And so my wardrobe needs had gone through a pretty dramatic change. The to be determined bins gave me a tool to practice living with a smaller wardrobe, but to do so in a way where I didn't have like the weight of having to make final decisions about all of my clothes. Because the reality was I didn't know what direction my life was headed. I didn't know if I was going to be going back into the office. I didn't know if my body was going to go back to something similar to what it was pre-babies and therefore be able to fit into many of these clothes. And so what I needed was time, but I also needed simplicity in my day-to-day. So I filled up these bins. I really allowed myself to have as many bins as I felt I needed. I think I had 6 large, those really big tubs filled with clothes down in our storage. And then I got to have simplicity in my wardrobe day in and day out because I had a really small wardrobe upstairs. That's what I was actually dealing with. But down in the basement, I had these other things kind of tucked away. And what happened over time as I got more information about how my life was changing and as I learned how joyful it was to just have less in my closet, I was able to slim those 6 bins down to 1 bin. And so today I have 3 different tools that I use to maintain our minimal capsule wardrobes. First, I do a 10-item capsule wardrobe in my closet, and those are all the clothes that are currently in rotation. I have a seasonal bin, so these are the clothes that will be coming out for future seasons, so we're hanging on to those. And then the to be determined bin. My to be determined bin is basically just filled with a handful of clothes that still don't fit me, but I'm holding out hope that they will in the future. But I probably am getting to the point where I need to set a deadline on that and just accept that things are different now and they may be forever. I use a similar approach with my kids, except they each just have 1 bin. So Theo has 1 bin and it's full of, seasonal clothes that need to be changed out, as well as hand-me-downs, and the same with Peyton. So basically there are 3 steps that I follow as I'm doing these wardrobe transitions. The first is to remove anything that just obviously isn't needed anymore. So that includes clothes that we've outgrown. So for my wardrobe, that would be things that don't fit me for one reason or another. In other cases, maybe I've just decided I don't like it anymore. I'm just kind of past that item. Same with the kids. It's going to be clothes, in their cases, clothes that they're just too small for them. In that case, I'm going to be evaluating, is this good enough for a donation or to be passed on as a hand-me-down to a friend, or is it in any way damaged and to the point where it just needs to be let go? Another category of things that I'm going to get rid of, I myself had a dress that I bought for my summer capsule and it tore twice. And so I just decided, like, okay, something about the design in this is just not great. I'm gonna let that one go too and not try to repair it again. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through our current wardrobe and pull out anything that is seasonally inappropriate. So for my kids, tank tops, shorts, anything like that that isn't gonna carry into fall. Like I said, we're still kind of on the cusp, so we're having hot days and cool days. So I'll hang on to a couple of t-shirts and a pair of shorts just to make sure, you know, we have something for those hot days, but eventually those will be fully transitioned down into the basement or transitioned out of the house if I don't think the kids will be able to wear them again next year. And then finally, if there's anything that needs to be repaired and I do want to hang on to it, I do want to do the work of getting it repaired, then I'm going to pull that out of the wardrobe and put that on my to-do list. However, if it's not something that I think is going to be done quickly, then more likely I'm going to let it go or donate it. So my next step in this process is to establish boundaries. I once heard the story about a young filmmaker who wanted to be able to produce his own film, and in order to do that, he wrote a script that took place entirely in one room, because of course having just one location would make it something that was more possible that he would be able to actually produce it himself. And one of the unexpected things that he found with that process was that putting these constraints in place, while counterintuitive, had the effect of being creatively freeing. And honestly, that has been my experience of minimalism and working with a smaller wardrobe, which is why, you know, I advocated for it so much. I want that sense of freedom for other people as well. In thinking about the boundaries, there are a lot of different ways that you can establish boundaries. I like to do quantity, so I like to do a 10-item wardrobe where I have 10 core pieces and then I have a handful of extras. Project 333 is another option. You can also think about your wardrobe in terms of categories. This would have worked for me well in the past when I was going to work. You know, I had to have my business casual wardrobe, I had to have my active wear wardrobe because I, at that stage in my life, exercised about 6 days a week. I also had more casual wear, I had lounge wear. So I would, at that stage of my life, I thought about my clothes more in terms of the, you know, categories of need. Another approach is to think about putting constraints around color. It's been a long time since I've done this, but in the past, when I wanted to have a cohesive wardrobe, but I didn't want it to be something that was overwhelming and I didn't want to have to spend a lot of money to build a cohesive wardrobe, I put in place a rule around color. So I decided that I was just gonna have 2 neutrals and 1 color. And so my 2 neutrals were black and navy, and then I had a color of kind of a richer royal blue. And what was nice about that is then I didn't feel like I had to have black boots and brown boots and tan boots. I could just have the black boots. And so that helped to keep things more manageable for me. What you'll likely find is that you want to use a couple of these approaches that I talked about to put constraints around your wardrobe. Now, for those of you who have kids, I've learned a few tools for including kids in the process of building a wardrobe. One is to put some visual constraints in place. So things like a set number of hangers or bins, but making sure the bins aren't too big, keeping them small, and then just having the general rule of like, you can have as much as fits in this bin. A couple other tools that are helpful with this are to have labels for the different, you know, areas, and using, depending on the age of the child, using visual picture labels, and to also make sure that the wardrobe and their clothing are at their height. This not only is helpful in the process of transitioning the wardrobe and building a capsule, it's also helpful in giving them more independence when they're dressing on a daily basis. If you're interested in encouraging independence in dressing, it's helpful to have a smaller wardrobe because kids get overwhelmed by too many options also, which leads into my second suggestion, which is to limit options. So for instance, I have learned with Peyton that it's best for me to not bring down the entire bin of hand-me-downs, but instead to bring out just the pieces that have the potential to fit her now. She can try on a handful of pieces, she can look through them. She understands that if she's not going to keep something, if she's not going to select something, then it's going to be donated, and in her mind, her understanding of it is it's going to go to another little girl, which she feels good about getting to give and share with other people. but also getting to be a part of the process of selecting the pieces that she's going to wear. I didn't really start to involve her in this until she turned 3. It's possible you can do it younger. I didn't try. So now that we've removed everything and we have our parameters in mind, now we're going into the third step, which is actually building the wardrobe. And we're gonna start with, of course, the clothing that we already have. I think this is where a minimalist approach to clothing is very different from like your traditional approach to clothing, which is we always start with what we already have and then we fill in the gaps. So I'm gonna look through my summer wardrobe and my seasonal bin and pull together all of the pieces that I think I need for the fall season. In my case, I picked out 3 different dresses, 2 pairs of leggings, 2 t-shirts, which you won't see me putting out on the bed because one is in the wash and the other one I'm currently wearing, 1 sweatshirt, and my big flannel buffalo check shirt that's actually my husband's, but I stole from him last year and never gave back because it's amazing. Then I also have my extras on the bed. So I've got my shoes, my coats and jackets, and a couple extra tank tops and t-shirts. So now that I've put all of these things together and I can see it all laid out here, I am realizing that I would like to have kind of an oversized chunky sweater, and I also would kind of like to have a blazer. I'm going to do what I always do, which is put the pieces into a list on my phone so that when I do go shopping, I can reference that in the future. And then I go through this pretty much the exact same process with the kids. I'm going through their hand-me-downs and the gifts that they've been given. In Theo's case, we actually had a full wardrobe, more than enough, just from gifts that were given by both of his grandmothers. So he's set for fall. I don't have to worry about or go out and look for any clothes for him. Peyton also has most of what she needs. I think she might need a couple of long sleeve shirts, so that's something that I'll add to the list. It's not absolutely essential, but could be helpful to have. And it's possible that she's going to outgrow her footy pajamas. However, I'm going to present the idea to her that we cut off the feet of the smaller jammies in order to extend their life a little bit, because ultimately they fit width-wise, they're just starting to get a little bit short in the length. But I know Peyton, and I know that she will need to buy into that idea, otherwise she probably won't want to wear them. So we'll see what happens there. So that is the process, hopefully explained and visually demonstrated in a way that is simple and that you can potentially recreate in your life. Again, if you're at the stage where you are just decluttering your wardrobe, then this approach might be a little bit overwhelming, and I'd suggest going back to just onion method and to be determined bins. Just peel away the things that you know for sure you don't want in your current closet, either declutter them, donate them, or put them into your bins, and allow yourself to start testing living with less. Well, like I said, this is my favorite season, and I love kicking it off with a transition in our wardrobe. I think that the fall wardrobe is the best wardrobe. And I am looking forward to evening bonfires and cool morning hikes and visiting our local pumpkin farm. I hope everyone else is starting to anticipate their favorite parts of the fall season. Thanks for watching, and until next time.